Okay, so let's talk about some of the fabrics we're going to be using today. So I have my hoop here. I'm going to go ahead and set it aside because we're just going to put it on the machine. I have a piece of stabilizer already hooped into my hoop. I'm using, I think this equates to a 5x5 hoop. I stitch out on a Janome MC500E. It is a single needle. I'm using a muslin fabric. This is unbleached. I added some Terrio Magic to it. That's why it looks a little odd if you can see. It's a liquid stabilizer, so I'm actually not going to hoop this into my hoop. I'm going to actually float it on top. So Terrio Magic is a stabilizer for fabric. You spray it on and it actually holds up like paper. See that? And then I also have my Applique fabric. This is what I'm going to use. On the back is some Heat and Bond Light. I ironed it on. We'll do another video on how to prep your applique pieces, but for now this is already done. I'm going to peel off this back here. If you can see, it has a shiny back, because when you heat it, it actually acts like glue and it'll adhere two pieces of fabric together. But what it also does is it also helps from fraying, which is really important because we're going to be applying some really heavy satin stitching onto our applique. So we actually want to reinforce it and make sure it doesn't do this. See all this? This is fraying. This will happen if it's not stabilized. So I stabilized it with the Heat and Bond. There's other things you can use to stabilize it too. That's another topic for another day. For now, let's go ahead and get started on appliquing our puffy monster. Okay, so I've hooped my stabilizer like I previously said. I attached it to my machine and now I'm floating my muslin on top. I'm going to tack it down with a basting stitch. This is not a part of the digital file. This is something that my machine is actually going to do for me, and it's going to create temporary stitching, so a frame around where my applique is going to go, and it's just to give extra reassurance and stability to my fabric, so that way it's not moving everywhere during this applique process. I'm going to use my hands, so do as I say, not as I do. I'm in a long-standing relationship with my Janome, so I trust her and I know how it's going to work out, so I'm going to use my hands. Feel free to secure it with some basting spray. Basting quilter spray is fine. 505 adhesive spray is also good. You could even use medical grade tape. It actually works really good on fabric. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. It doesn't matter what color you use, so let's baste away. Get off real quick. Just to show you, there's a temporary stitching around this. These stitches come out really easy. It's not going to ruin your design. It's just going to make sure that it doesn't move. So, we've got it floated. First thing on this particular design is there are horns on this monster. So we're going to go ahead and stitch out his horns, and he has socks. So his horns I'm going to do one color and his socks I'm going to do another color. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to speed through stitching out his horns and his socks, and you're going to get a cute little time lapse with some nice music to go along with it. So see you soon. Okay, so we're done with that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'll cut this thread that's kind of lingering. And this one also. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to stitch out the placement line for the body of our monster. So it doesn't matter what color this is in. We don't really have to switch our thread at this point. I'm certainly not going to. We're not going to see these stitches later. So let's go ahead and run what's called a placement stitch. Okay, so now you'll see our placement stitch, and a placement stitch is just that. It tells us where we're going to place our fabric. So if you'll recall, the pink fabric from earlier is the color I want the body of my monster to be. So here we go. I've got it shiny side down. And then you have to make sure that you cover all these stitches. You don't want any of them hanging out. And then we're going to go ahead and it's going to stitch the same shape again. But this time it's going to attach our applique fabric onto our main fabric. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I am actually not going to trim the fabric yet. What I want to do is I'm gonna go ahead and run the facial features for our monster first, and then we'll cut. Okay, so the next step is we have the whites of their eyes. So we're going to go ahead and do the whites in our monster's eyes. Okay, so we're now done with our monster applique. So my machine just finished. It finished the satin stitching. This is the satin stitching. So we're going to go ahead and remove this from the machine. Okay, so here's our monster applique. I've removed it from my machine. And so now we had talked about these temporary basting stitches that frame the outside. See how it kept it down? I did not have to hoop my muslin into my hoop because I was able to use the Terreal Magic, and I used a basting stitch, which was this frame right here. So like I said, these are temporary stitches. So if you can see underneath here, there are these tiny little stitches. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I have these tiny scissors that came with my machine. You can go ahead and just like snip one of them, or if you have a seam ripper. And all you gotta do is cut them. See, I'm just going ahead and giving them a little snip. And when you do that, it comes up, see? And you'll just go ahead and do that all the way around. So remove the entire basting stitch. Okay, so as you see, we went ahead and removed it. They come out pretty cleanly and easily. See, you just kind of, they're really just temporary stitches. They don't really do much to, you don't do anything to your design. They just hold down the fabric. That's what they're intended for. Okay, so now you can just go ahead and remove it. Like I said, I used tearaway stabilizer, so this should come out fairly easily. Just like that. It just popped cleanly right out. And now, what we're left with is this cute little guy. See? And then, if you notice, you see some of like these, almost looks like watermarks. It's not water, that's actually the Terreal Magic that I did spray on this. I will do a tutorial on how to prep with Terreal Magic on another video. But this is essentially what you get. And you could either just use it like this, or if you wash it, the Terreal Magic actually will come out. So you won't have all this left over. And that was easy, guys. That's all we did is an applique. The applique piece is just this part where we layered on another piece of cotton or a different kind of fabric and did a tack down stitch, and we satined around it. And he's pretty cute, right? Again, you can find him at Designs by Drea. I have an Etsy shop. There's a link below. I'll have a link to this design as well, so it should be easy for you to find him. I'll also have a list of supplies and things we referenced within this video, so if you want to go ahead and purchase them and try them out for yourselves, I mean, you're more than welcome to. I would say this went rather well. To be honest, this was my first time using Terreal Magic, and I actually really like it. I think I'm going to use it from now on. I really didn't have to have any of the hassle of hooping it in and making sure it was straight and not having any puckering. This actually turned out really well. I mean, it stays up pretty good. And the other thing too, as we talked about, is there's some heat and bond on this pink. If you really wanted to, you could give it a light press. Use a pressing cloth so that way you can protect your polyester threading, but it will actually adhere this onto your fabric. So it will act, it's kind of like an added layer of protection if you wanted to. So I mean, it's optional, you don't have to do it, but if you did use heat and bond, that is an option for you. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please comment below with any questions or any other videos that you would like. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, and if you click the bell, you'll be notified of every time I upload a video. See you next time.